Theo Usherwood is here to solve the mystery of Liz Truss's cheese.
Let me take you back, James, to the 2014...
You're looking very chirpy.
2014 Conservative Party conference and Liz Truss's speech to the party faithful.
I want to see us eating more British food here in Britain. At the moment, we import 2/3 of all of our apples. We import 9/10 of all of our pears. We import 2/3 of our cheese. That is a disgrace.
That's the best applause I've ever heard, because it's kind of like, I know I'm supposed to be clapping because she's paused and she's clearly waiting for applause, but why is it a disgrace? I really like Camembert.
The trade talks that are taking place between Japan and the UK, because of course we are able to hold those trade talks because we're going to be outside of any EU agreement with Japan, are already taking place. And Liz Truss has reportedly put up a blocker because she wants to ensure, this is according to a report in the Financial Times today, that Stilton cheese is part of any negotiations. Now, at the moment, under the EU agreement with Japan, which of course we're part of until the end of the transition period on December the 31st, cheese imported from the European Union into Japan is subject to a tariff. Smelly cheese, I'm told, by informed sources, is not particularly popular in Japan.
But they don't go near dairy as a general rule. Not to generalise horribly, but it's a thing, isn't it? I had a friend who was Chinese, not Japanese, and she always said that there's a smell that Westerners have to people who never eat dairy. But anyway, I digress.
So that the relevance of that is, of course, that when the trade deal between the European Union and Japan was signed, the French didn't want to put cheese into it, just as we didn't put Stilton into that trade deal to remove tariffs so it could be sold at a lower price in Japan, because it wasn't seen as that
there wasn't enough
popular.
business.
There wasn't enough demand for it. So
I said cheeses then, in case anyone thought I swore.
So Liz Truss wants to put it.
I'm going to open a deli.
Now,
in the Middle
let me
East.
just explain
Sorry,
the importance for the
Yeah.
International Trade Secretary of signing this and putting Stilton cheese into the trade deal, because she wants to ensure that we get a better trade deal than the European Union has with Japan, because we're going to be able to sell our cheeses, our Stilton cheese, into Japan. Now, you asked before you came on air about geographical indicators, the idea that you take Stilton cheese can only be made in Stilton.
Correct,
cheddar cheese can only
Cornish
be made
pasties.
exactly.
Yes.
And of course, it works for under European Union rules. It works for the French as well.
Champagne
exactly.
perhaps being the most
Now,
obvious.
of course, what will happen when we leave the transition period ends, is we're no longer going to be subject to those rules. So French suppliers of cheese could make Stilton cheese
and call it
Stilton cheese and sell it in to the Japanese market. But because of Liz Truss's hard line, James, we're going to be able to sell our Stilton cheese into the Japanese market much cheaper than any European knockoffs.
Even though they don't really want any Stilton cheese.
That's not the point from the International Trade Secretary point of view.
No.
The point,
so you can present it as a win to people who are increasingly struggling to... Yes.
But just to give you just the numbers, sometimes they can be helpful. Of course, this UK-Japan trade deal is worth, I'm told, 0.07%.
But this is the opposite. Why did you
GDP.
play as that clip? Because this is the opposite. You were saying we should eat more of our own cheese.
Well,
now she's sending it. Now she wants to send it to Japan. You can't eat it here and send it to Japan. The woman
It's just the fact that cheese production, the level of cheese production in this country
needs to increase.
It needs to increase.
Just because I think this is really interesting, and this is one of the things that to be honest with you, a bit like I see the Daily Telegraph yesterday saying it's outrageous that we're going to lose our European health insurance card, and you sit there and you go, you wanted it, you won, get over it. Is it true then that Derek Trotter, the French cousin of Peckham's most famous fictional resident, would Derek Trotter be able to start calling his cheeses Stilton and cheddar with complete impunity and sell them anywhere he wants in the world?
Yes. So you're talking Trotter rather than Trotter?
Trotter.
Yeah, Trotter.
Derek.
Derek can sell. Yeah, so he can.
So as a direct result of leaving the European Union, we lose.
But the point is that what Liz Truss has done, if she wins in this battle with the Japanese,
I'm interested in the other bit now.
Sorry.
I get what Liz Truss has done. I think our listeners, will be more.
Derek Trotter, yes.
Derek Trotter. And his magnificent fromagerie, he will be free to sell in the. So we lose all protections in all Europe until we sign a trade agreement with the European Union that may or may not include this. We lose all protection. I mean, I suppose in return,
we could have it before the end of the transition period because they're already in place until December 31st. Yes.
And that's when it would end in December. In return, we could stick some Blue Nun in the Soda Stream and call it champagne.
Yes,
because that. It was a two-way street, but also Cornish pasty. You can't even buy a Cornish pasty in Greggs. You won't know this, Theo.
No, I do. I go to Greggs
because you eat in the Ritz Grill every afternoon, the Savoy Grill every afternoon. But when I go to Greggs, I have to say steak bake.
Yes,
because they can't call it a Cornish pasty because it's not made in Cornwall.
No.
So Derek Trotter could start knocking out Cornish pasties.
Yes.
Wow, well done, everyone.